Did you really want to run away that badly? Then you shouldn't have gotten caught in the first place, he said, before stabbing her with the sword in his hands. Imagine waking up from a fantasy novel where your own husband slaughtered you, only to meet the same man in your real world. This funny and dramatic manhwa is titled For Your Perfect Ending. Please like and subscribe for more episodes like this. In every romance fantasy transmigration story, the heroine who ends up inside a book always gets a happy ending. Whether she possesses the body of a villainess or just an extra, the result is always the same. In the end, she becomes the main character and gets her perfect ending. Even the male lead, who at first dislikes her because of misunderstandings, eventually falls in love with her and protects her. Of course, that's how it usually goes. But this story is different. In this one, she ends up dying at the hands of a man who was obsessed with her. Did you really want to run away that badly? Then you shouldn't have gotten caught in the first place, he said, before stabbing her with the sword in his hands. She died by the hands of a man who refused to let her go. A man who didn't want her to escape. And instead of running away from him, maybe the only place she could return to was her creator. After dying in the world she was transmigrated to, she woke up in her original world. Every single day, thinking about that incident made her so mad. That morning, as usual, her uncle called out to her loudly, so loudly her ears almost bled, telling her to come eat breakfast. She knew she needed time to get used to this, because in that world she woke up every morning to gentle maid voices, not her uncle's loudspeaker voice. But of course, that was over now. So what if it was a bad ending? She came back to her normal world after all, so it was a win-win, right? Yoon got dressed for school like she used to and opened the curtains confidently, saying, "My real story starts now." Seum joined her uncle for breakfast, and of course she enjoyed eating kimchi stew. She was so happy that she could finally taste it again, a taste you could never find in another world. Her uncle was amazed seeing her eat so much. A girl who used to only poke her food was now eating like she had been starving forever. "Yoon, you've been acting like a totally different person lately," he said. She paused, thinking to herself. After all, she had lived 20 years in another world. So yes, she was different now. After Seum finished her food, she thanked her uncle and picked up her bag, about to leave. As she wore her stockings, her uncle asked if she was sure returning to school immediately was a good idea. "You should just rest for like a year," he suggested. She glanced at him, showing that she was perfectly fine. Apparently, Seum had been unconscious for 3 months in this world. No one would believe her if she told them she spent an entire lifetime in another world during those 3 months. It sounded ridiculous, but she was glad she came back to this world while still young. It would have been terrible if she had woken up here after 20 years had passed. Holding onto the door handle, Seum suddenly called out to her uncle. He immediately asked, worried, if she felt any pain. But instead, she turned around cheerfully and said that she loved him. He was totally shocked. Of course, who wouldn't be? A niece who had never once said, "I love you," suddenly saying it out of nowhere? "You're getting weird again, aren't you?" he asked nervously. When she transmigrated, she regretted never telling her only family, her uncle, that she loved him. So after finally waking up, she promised herself she would tell him every day. "What's wrong with you, kid? Go to school already," he shouted, and she rushed out. With his arms folded, her uncle couldn't help but think, she was really different now. Some say her uncle is hot, but you guys need to wait and see the second male lead. He's the definition of hot in human form. On her way to school, Seum overheard some students praising a Yandra crown prince from a novel. She was triggered immediately. They really need to get stabbed by an obsessive Yandra to come to their senses, she thought bitterly. What's so hot about a Yandra? She mumbled angrily, saying they should burn all romance fantasy novels in this world. Every single one of them. Poor girl, she was traumatized. And honestly, who wouldn't be? Yoon was suddenly startled when a girl jumped on her, shouting, "Long time no see. I heard you were seriously sick, and I was worried about you," one of the girls said, while the other two stood at a corner laughing. Poor Yoon almost forgot about her. This brat existed in her life even before she transmigrated. In most reincarnation stories, the transmigrators always had miserable lives in their original world, which made them never want to go back after experiencing a better life. In Yoon case, it was the same. At school, she was timid and always alone. Unfortunately, she got on Kim Gabin's bad side and ended up spending every single day in school miserably. That was how things had always been until today. "Wow, Yoon, you look so bright now. Guess you weren't that sick after all," Kim Gabin said. Seeing how quiet Seum was, Gabin raised her hand angrily to slap her, only to freeze in shock when Seum caught her wrist midair. Yoon couldn't believe it. She was once bullied by this bunch of high schoolers? There was no way she would let that happen again, not after surviving 20 years of deadly traps and schemes. "I've been training in self-defense since I was 5, Yoon said calmly. She kicked Kim Gabin to the ground as the girl cursed loudly. Seum looked at them with confidence and warned them that she wasn't going to let her life fall apart twice. They better stay quiet and stay out of her sight. Back in class, she couldn't help but notice how the class lineup had changed after being away for so long. Still, everything worked out well for her. New class. New her. She boldly told herself she would make friends and never live a pathetic life like before. She decided to start with the group sitting in front of her, chatting happily. It felt easier to make friends in this modern world than in that cruel noble fantasy world. "Did you see Haewon's picture on IG yesterday?" one girl asked. The boy replied, saying he was really good-looking and that his followers had skyrocketed. Yoon Seum jumped into the conversation excitedly. "Who's Haewon?" she asked, thinking he was some kind of celebrity. Everyone was surprised that she didn't know him. One of the girls told her that Haewon was their classmate, while another added that her sickness must have shaken her brain, because he had been famous since their freshman year. What kind of guy is he to be that famous? Yoon Seum asked anxiously, thinking to herself that she never paid attention in school before. They explained that Haewon was very handsome, and not only that, he was also rich and kind. Even girls from other schools came just to see him. Yoon was shocked. There was someone that was good-looking in her school and she never noticed? Speak of the devil. Haewon walked in at that exact moment, and the girls began shouting cutely, calling him Appa in sweet voices. Holy crap, Yoon Seum muttered the moment she saw him. She froze. Shocked. Unable to believe her eyes. This was Haewon? He walked toward her and said it was his first time seeing her. Then he suddenly remembered. She was the one who had been sick. Nice to meet you. I'm Lee Haewon. He introduced himself with a smile. Yoon Seum completely freaked out. Because standing in front of her was the same man from the fantasy novel she transmigrated into. Killian Del Winfred. The obsessive fool who killed her with his own hands. How is that even possible? This had to be a joke. Just when she thought she could finally live a normal life, this happened. If you're still watching and this got you hooked, don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting stories like this. Haewon noticed that her expression had changed. She didn't look well. Yoon Seum wondered why the hell he was here, but then she remembered something Killian once told her. If we're not meant to be together in this life, then we'll definitely meet in your next life. You can never escape me. Are you okay? Does it hurt somewhere? Haewon asked, reaching out to touch her. Yoon Seum angrily thought to herself that he should leave her alone in this life already. Before he could react, Yoon grabbed his hand and flipped him over. To everyone's shock, he slammed right into the ground. Oh no. She didn't just do that. Did she? What the hell just happened? Your first day back at school, Yoon Seum. The moment she realized what she had done, it was already too late. She knew instantly she was doomed. You're really strong, Haewon said from the ground, smiling. Young man, you really shouldn't be smiling. That's when things get worse. It was lunch period, and Yoon Seum sat in a corner, thinking to herself that she was completely screwed. Her new school life flashed right before her eyes. She knew it must have looked really weird. She had thrown down the most popular kid in school. In the eyes of the students, she must look like a monster now. Guess I just confirmed it again this year, she sighed. 0 friends. The thought of regressing crossed her mind, but to her surprise, the kids she had talked to earlier came over and asked to join her for lunch. Yoon was shocked. Someone still wanted to be seen with her after all that drama? They sat down and asked how she was able to do that, because she handled it like a really strong girl. Feeling nervous, Yoon told them she had been training in self-defense since she was little. They told her not to worry, since Haewon himself said it was fine. After all, he startled her first, right? They praised her for having such strong self-defense skills and kept talking about it over and over during the meal. It honestly felt like forever. Yoon was a bit bored that they wouldn't change the topic, but still. It felt nice. Talking with friends like this was fun. Her mind suddenly flashed back to when she was still inside the novel. One night, Yoon held a dagger, threatening to stab Killian if he stepped any closer. But he didn't stop. He kept walking toward her, calling her Ines, grabbing her trembling hands, and asking how she could even stab him when her hands were shaking so badly. He asked if she wanted him to help her. To her horror, he pushed the dagger into his own chest like a madman, smiling as blood spilled out. He said it was easy, so easy, yet she was the one hesitating. He told her that if she wanted, he could rip out his heart for her. That was when she cried and screamed at him that he was completely insane. Killian only laughed, rubbing the blood across his face, saying it was a shame she was only realizing that now. Yoon Seum opened her eyes in shock. It was just a dream. She sat up, breathing hard. What a shitty dream, she muttered. She was always afraid of memories like that appearing in her dreams, and yet it still happened. Lately, she hasn't been sleeping well. But at least there was one good thing, she had made some cute friends today. Everything would have been perfect. If that foolish Killian hadn't appeared in this life. Could that guy really be Killian, she wondered. If I look closely, his face isn't exactly the same. But the moment she saw him, her whole body screamed at her to run. With a heavy heart, she thought to herself, she transmigrated into a novel and came back. Which means, he could jump out of a novel too, right? Waiting at the bus stop, Yoon Seum realized the moment the bus arrived that she had forgotten her wallet. If she didn't take this bus, she would be really late. The bus driver asked if she was getting in, and she sadly told him she would wait for the next one. That was when Haewon suddenly showed up and said he would pay for her too. Right. Just when she stopped thinking about him, no, in fact, he was the reason her mind had been so distracted all day. Yoon was surprised, and Haewon smiled, saying it seemed they met again. It felt extremely awkward being on the same bus with him, especially after dreaming about him that morning. Still, Yoon knew she had to thank him for paying, and she did. He told her it was nothing, calling her by her name, and added that they should at least greet each other properly from now on. Watching him smile like that, Yoon wondered why he looked so harmless. She quickly looked away, telling herself she would never get close to him, not even a brush of sleeves, until graduation. At this point, Haewon was starting to wonder what was wrong with her. 10 minutes later, they were still on the bus, and it was completely packed. Yoon was standing right in front of Haewon, desperately trying not to touch him. She kept trembling. The bus suddenly swerved, and the man behind her accidentally pushed her forward. She almost hit her head right on Haewon's chest. The man apologized, but Yoon didn't care. She had succeeded. With pure strength and focus, she managed not to touch him. Yoon, Haewon called out, laughing. Are you blocking people for me like in dramas? Yoon couldn't believe he was laughing. In her eyes, she was literally fighting for her life, struggling with everything she had just to avoid him. He gently pulled her and stood right in front of her. It's usually like this in dramas, he said playfully. Not the other way around. I'm taller than you. Yoon froze. Everyone stared at them. She felt like she was about to lose her mind. She tried her best to avoid eye contact, but Haewon kept smiling at her. This guy is creepy. Could it be he transmigrated from the novel? By the time they reached school, Yoon was already exhausted. Her friends immediately asked why she looked like that and whether something had happened. What kind of person is Lee Haewon? Yoon asked suddenly. Are the rumors about him being nice really true? She sat up straight and added quickly, aren't they just rumors? Her friends stared at her in confusion. Yoon asked if he was secretly rude or something, but the two of them only looked more puzzled. They could tell she was slowly losing her mind. One of the girls said Haewon was completely spotless and that Yoon should just watch him closely herself. She said she would even testify to it. The boy added that he had never heard a single bad rumor about Haewon either. Why do you think they call him half-blood? He said cutely. It's because he's half human and half angel. Yoon's expression changed instantly. Please don't start again, she thought. She was literally confiding in his fans. This was exactly what she should have expected. At that moment, someone placed a juice box on her desk. Yoon looked up. It was Haewon. Drink it, he said with a smile. Consider it payback for watching over me on the bus. Everyone froze, including Yoon. Bro, she wasn't watching you. Too bad it appeared like that. Haewon left, greeting the other students as if nothing happened. Yoon and her friend were still frozen in shock. Are you flirting with Haewon? They panicked, flailing their hands. What is going on? Why would a guy you're complaining about bring you juice, and thank you for watching him? Seriously? Yoon couldn't say a single word. All they could do was bombard her with questions about her relationship with him. In her mind, all she could think was, we were mortal enemies in my previous life. Looking at the juice, she wondered if he had some kind of ulterior motive. Later, during sports class, Haewon played football. When he scored a goal, he lifted his shirt to wipe the sweat off, revealing a perfect six-pack. The girls around him went crazy. Why is Haewon like this? He glows differently. Park Min exclaimed. Luna added, he's in a completely different genre. Meanwhile, Yoon sat in the middle, speechless. She had seen this before. Killian, the man from the novel, had looked just this good when practicing swordsmanship, with maids surrounding him, praising him endlessly. He was exactly the same. No matter how she looked at him, all she could see was Killian. She sighed. Why does everything overlap? A student suddenly announced that the boys and girls would be playing dodgeball. Dodgeball. Yoon thought, shrugging. She didn't think it would be a big deal, until the game began. Yoon left everyone shocked with her outstanding performance. She hit every single student out of the game, one by one. Playing with these high schoolers is nothing, she thought. The other kids complained, claiming it was literally bullying and wondering how she even knew what she was doing. Her friends cheered her from behind, proud as ever. Now, there was only one person left, Haewon. In the novel, Killian had been the crown prince, the strongest swordsman in the empire. No one could defeat him. Yoon had always struggled, eventually being dragged away. If Haewon is really Killian, he should be able to dodge this easily, she thought. But then, she threw the ball. It hit Haewon square on the face. Everyone gasped. Yoon couldn't believe it herself. How did he get hit straight on? His face turned red, and he fell to the ground. The students immediately crowded around him. Oops, did she just knock him out? This is bad. Haewon was taken to the infirmary, and Yoon stayed by his side. She stared at him, bewildered. How could someone with Killian's face sleep so defenselessly? She even pulled out a pair of scissors coldly, briefly wondering if she should just kill him. Her eyes widened in horror at her own thoughts. She couldn't believe she even considered it. This is the modern era, not some empire. Whether he's Killian or not, that's in the past, she reasoned. Just then, Haewon woke up. You came to visit me? He asked. I'm fine. You don't need to worry. Yoon replied, a little flustered. Why did he wake up so suddenly? She thought. Could he have heard me thinking about that? But why are you holding a pen? He asked, and Yoon froze. She couldn't exactly tell him she had considered killing him, could she? But come to think of it, isn't it funny that she's about to kill a strong guy with a pen? Yoon apologized softly. I'm sorry for hitting you in the face with the ball. Haewon burst into laughter. Of course, Yoon had no idea what was so funny. It's really fine, and actually kind of funny at the same time, he said, smiling. How should I put it? You're the first person of your type I've ever met. It's surprising. Come to think of it, it's quite interesting. Yoon was left completely speechless. Killian would never laugh or smile like this. She noticed blood on his neck and leaned in closely. Are you hurt from the fall? She asked, her concern growing. His complexion was pale, and Yoon immediately regretted throwing the ball in the first place. Just as she was about to go get the nurse, Haewon rested his head on her chest. She froze. I feel dizzy from the impact, he said, apologizing. Yoon couldn't believe how close they were. Hey, he said, lifting his head slightly. Can we talk and greet each other like this? Can we be friends? Yoon Seom's heart skipped a beat. After leaving the room, Yoon argued with herself. Haewon seemed kind and harmless, yet she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. His asking her to be friends wasn't unfamiliar because in the novel, that was exactly what she had said to Killian when they first met as kids. When she first transmigrated into the book, her life was peaceful. She had an ordinary life as a duke's daughter, not the heroine. It didn't seem like she would ever get involved with the crown prince, the original male lead. But one day, she saw a shabby little kid wandering around their estate. Her mouth was full of food, and she could barely speak without covering her mouth, but still Yoon asked why he was so filthy and suggested he come into the house. She promised she would make him warm cocoa if he became friends with her. She reached out to him first, without any suspicion. She served him the warm cocoa, and the poor boy looked at it strangely before bouncing on it like a hungry child. She stared at him cutely, mumbling to herself, he's like a stray cat. Killian's eyes widened when he tasted how delicious it was. He licked every drop of cocoa cutely, then dropped the cup on the table and returned to his alert, serious mode. You knew instantly that it would take a long time before she could get close to him. Immediately, the maid stomped in, asking cautiously what she had brought home. Ines told her she had seen a stray cat in the garden, but the maid panicked, saying she would be in trouble if the Duke found out. The maid concluded that the boy might be a child displaced by war and said she would take him to an orphanage. She dragged Killian by the hands, asking him to come along, but he struggled, refusing. The maid dragged him anyway, despite his strength. He shouted that he didn't want to go to the orphanage. Ines stepped between them, blocking Killian. She told Marion that she didn't have to worry, she would take care of him herself because she wanted to be friends with the boy. Killian was surprised, and Marion tried to talk her out of it. Now thinking about it, Yoon concluded that she had been really naive back then. She had thought she found a harmless little kitten, not realizing it was actually a black-hearted tiger cub. She thought to herself that she wouldn't be that naive in this lifetime. She must find out about Haewon before making him her friend. 1 month later, Yoon had already been watching Haewon closely. The results remained the same. He was kind, initiative, and socially skilled. She was so disappointed that she hadn't found a single flaw in him, which annoyed her because he was the complete opposite of Killian. Yoon was walking to school, lost in her thoughts about proving he was definitely Killian, completely unaware that Haewon was quietly following her from behind. Hi, Seom. He popped up out of nowhere, startling her. Yoon panicked, and he laughed, apologizing for scaring her. She glared at him, thinking to herself that she could never get used to this energy. Haewon asked why she was dressed like that, and why she wasn't wearing her tie. Immediately, Yoon panicked. The disciplinary teacher would surely notice today. To her surprise, Haewon pulled out a red tie and asked if she wanted it. No. What about you then? She asked, confused. He smiled. Well, let it slide if it's me. Yoon remembered that he was the teacher's favorite, but then she hesitated. His niceness felt almost like a mockery, which made her mad. She refused again, insisting she was fine without the tie. Suddenly, she began stretching her body. Haewon watched, confused. Before he knew it, she jumped up, climbed the school fence, and landed inside the school grounds. From the top, she called down, I don't need the tie. I'm not even passing through the gate now. Haewon was amazed. How did you do that? That's so cool. He smiled. Should I try climbing too? She warned him carefully, be careful. I won't take responsibility. Just when Haewon thought he could finally climb up, his eyes widened in shock. He slipped and fell backward. The schoolyard went completely silent. He scratched the back of his head, muttering how embarrassing it was. Then he looked up and saw Yoon laughing out loud. It was the first time he had ever seen her laugh like that. Aren't you laughing way too openly? He asked. Yoon immediately stopped and apologized. She thought to herself, seeing Killian's face doing slapstick comedy is worth living for. Yoon realized something else. She was now looking down at him, and he was down on the ground. Back in the novel, she had always had to look up to him. Looking down on him now felt incredible. Really, then when I'm close to you, I'll bend my knees a bit, he said playfully. She smiled, calling him by his name. Don't betray me, she warned. She silently wished Haewon wasn't Killian. If this was some horrifyingly perfect act, he should at least pretend till the end and not get caught. The quiz results came out, and Yoon immediately saw hers. She couldn't believe it. It was real. Being in another world for 20 years had really affected her. She barely remembered any of the school curriculum. Her friends groaned when they saw her score. Do you even have a brain? One of them joked. Maybe it's time I start training for sports college, Yoon muttered, scratching her head. I'm good with my body anyway. Park Min told her not to give up yet. They still had a year left. They suggested she join group studies. Group studies? Yoon asked, puzzled. They explained that everyone would discuss subjects they didn't understand during the weekends. Yoon stopped panicking and decided she had to give it a shot. How about studying with Haewon? Someone suggested, nodding toward him. He was across the room, being friendly with other girls. Yoon couldn't believe it. They were bringing up Haewon again. They reminded her that he was the top of their class and that he seemed close to her. After all, he had even brought her juice the other time. They suggested that she could disguise their time together as studying, and who knows, maybe they might even fall in love. Yoon held herself back, thinking she should ignore them. She didn't need to do something like that just for her grades. But then she glanced at Haewon. He noticed her looking and smiled happily. She felt her heart skip and looked away immediately. Why does he keep smiling like an idiot? Even this morning, when she told him not to betray her, he had laughed foolishly and promised not to. She wondered why he even said that. He didn't even know what she meant. Yoon shook her head, forcing herself to focus. Haewon is Haewon. I need to fix my real-world crisis first. Later, Yoon Seum helped carry a trash can, walking majestically as she disposed of the trash. For a moment, she felt like a normal high schooler, enjoying the simple, peaceful rhythm of her daily life. But then her eyes widened in shock. She smelled cigarettes. Looking over, she saw some kids gathered in a corner, smoking. And in the middle of them stood Lee Haewon. His face. It was sad, just like the expression Killian always made. Yoon couldn't believe it. Haewon could make that face too. And whenever Killian made that face in the novel, something bad always followed. Is he finally going to show his true colors? She wondered. She prepared to act, thinking she needed to save the boys from whatever was coming. But then she realized these weren't normal kids. They were bullies. She watched closely as they taunted him. Is that all you've got? One of them sneered. Stop looking at us like you're extorting when we're all your friends. Those sneakers are expensive. Mind if I try them on? They look like a limited edition, another added. Yoon Seum couldn't believe it. They were really bullying him. She worried they might provoke him and get hurt. One of them even placed his hands on Haewon's shoulders. Haewon kicked them off immediately. The bullies were shocked, but one grabbed him by the collar, shouting, I've always hated the way you look at us. Yoon panicked. Is he seriously going to get hit? She thought. Her mind flashed with all the happy moments she'd shared with him, and she knew she had to do something. The bully raised his fist, and Yoon shouted angrily, stop. All of them turned toward her, confused. Who the hell are you? One asked. Yoon froze for a moment. She had stepped in without a plan. There was no way she could take down all of them at once. Thinking fast, she grabbed Haewon. We were assigned class duties together, and he ditched, she said, smiling. Sorry, guys, I'll be taking him for a bit. One of the bullies shouted, what the hell do you think you're doing? Yoon desperately wished they'd let it slide. But then a familiar voice rang out. Yoon Seum. It was Kim Gabin. Yoon froze. She couldn't believe it. She still had to deal with Kim Gabin after the last time. She obviously hadn't learned her lesson. Last time, I was startled and didn't get to deal with you properly. Kim Gabin shouted, signaling the boys to chase them. Yoon immediately blocked Haewon. Step aside. I'll handle this, she told him. One of the guys reached for her. Yoon reacted instantly. She twisted his hand until it hurt, then flipped him to the ground. The rest stared, shocked by her strength. She chuckled. Just let us go already. Don't let her go. She's just a girl. Kim yelled angrily. Yoon knew it wasn't funny anymore. She sighed. I didn't want it to come to this, but we have to run. She grabbed Haewon's hand and started dragging him along. He was surprised, but then he suddenly held her hand firmly, stopping her. Yoon's eyes widened in shock. He wasn't letting go. The two managed to escape the bullies. Once they reached a safe distance, Yoon stopped and breathed heavily. She realized she was still holding Haewon's hand and let go immediately, apologizing. It's okay, he said softly. Then, with a small smile, he asked, do you want to hold my hand again? Yoon was surprised. She noticed that he was still slightly shaken from the confrontation. She held onto his hand again, gently. Is this enough? She asked. Yes, he said. They sat there for a while, holding each other's hands. Of course, Yoon couldn't help thinking how awkward it felt. It was the weekend, and Siam decided to study with Haewon. While studying, she couldn't help thinking back to the novel, when she used to make Killian's hair while he studied and praise him for looking so adorable. He would reluctantly ask her to join him, but she would tease him, asking why he was always studying. Killian would remind her how she once threw a fit with her father just so he could be enrolled in the same academy as her. Because of that, he had to study hard and stay at the top of his class so he could formally become her knight. He calmly told her that he wanted to stay with her forever. Back then, Ines would blush at those words, not knowing that his obsession was deadly. Siam thought to herself that it was all useless now. Just then, Haewon called out to her, saying there was someone at the window. When she turned around, it was her uncle. He was peeking at them furiously, like a wolf, and she could tell he was cursing with his eyes. Siam instantly knew she was in big trouble because she had told him she was going to study with friends. Her uncle sat across from them, glaring seriously. Siam tried to explain what was going on, but Haewon interrupted. He politely greeted her uncle and confidently introduced himself, saying they were studying together. Siam couldn't help thinking to herself that he was way better than Killian, because back in the novel, Killian used to glare viciously at her family after becoming the crown prince. She smiled, tapped Haewon's head, and said he had grown up so well. Haewon's face turned red, and he couldn't stop himself from blushing hard. This is so cute. She then turned back to her uncle, who was still glaring, and explained that Haewon was the top student in her class, which was why they were studying together. To their surprise, he stood up immediately and asked them to come with him. At first, Siam was worried, wondering where they were going, but he simply took them home and made delicious meals for them. Haewon was so happy and thanked him for inviting him. Siam sat still, staring in confusion, wondering what was going on with the sudden atmosphere. It felt like they were getting along so well without her. After Haewon left, Siam tried talking to her uncle, but he told her he didn't have a problem with her having a boyfriend, as long as he was more handsome and not uglier than him. Siam was shocked and wondered where all of this was coming from. He patted her head, smiled softly, and said he wasn't expecting anything from her. He just didn't want her to get sick. Siam became emotional and hugged him, saying she hadn't told him she loved him today. He cleared his throat and told her to stop with the cheesy talk already. After getting home, Haewon took a bath. When he came out of the shower, he sat on his bed and reached for a photo, staring at it quietly. You wouldn't believe whose photo it was Yoon Siam's, smiling brightly. Haewon grinned obsessively. This is so creepy. What if he really is Killian and is just playing along in this life? The next day, while walking to school, Yoon Siam received a text from Haewon. He was showing her a cute cat picture, and she couldn't help smiling. But then she froze when she saw the rest of the text. Did you remember to bring your tie today? Yoon's expression turned stunned. I forgot again, she thought. Just like usual, she decided to climb over the fence. Thank goodness for martial arts training in my previous life, she muttered, swinging herself over easily. Sorry, master, this isn't what you taught me for, she whispered, landing gracefully on the other side. But then she froze again. Up ahead, she saw two students pressed against each other. Yoon perched on the fence, watching quietly to see what they were doing, and her eyes widened in shock. They were kissing. In school. She couldn't believe it. The guy, with silver hair, noticed her and paused, lipstick still on his lips. Their eyes met. He winked at her, placing a finger to his lips, silently telling her to shut up. Back in class, Yoon couldn't stop thinking about what she'd just witnessed. Don't tell me, did I transmigrate into another novel again? Could this be a school romance titled I'll Kiss You for 5001? She wondered. There's no funny girl as Yoon. Haewon was right. He's never seen her type before. Just then, the classroom door opened. The teacher announced, we have a transfer student joining us today. The students murmured, surprised. The new student entered. I'm Cheon-seon, he said with a bright smile. Nice to meet everyone. All the girls immediately blushed at his cute, handsome face. Yoon, however, froze. That was the same silver-haired guy from earlier. Why is he in my class? She thought. Before she could react, the teacher pointed at a seat in front of her. Sit here. Cheon chuckled. I'm tall. If I sit there, I'll block everyone's view. The teacher agreed and told him to sit beside Yoon Siam instead. Everyone watched as he walked over gracefully, like an angel. Yoon looked away annoyed. I'm about to lose my mind. Please don't remember my face, she thought. Hi, peeping girl. Cheon said cheerfully. Yeah, she's screwed again. Cheon immediately caught the attention of the entire class. Students bombarded him with questions about his height, hobbies, and all sorts of things. It was obvious. This new guy was taking Haewon's place as the most handsome in class. Yoon frowned. Why is he flirting with everyone? I don't like it. First impressions mattered, and after seeing him earlier, there was no way she would like him. She shook her head. He's a walking red flag. I need to avoid him at all costs if I want a peaceful life. Cheon tapped her shoulder. Partner, why aren't you curious about anything? Yoon freaked out. He startled me, she thought. I'm curious about nothing, she replied. He smiled. Our first meeting is already quite memorable. Aren't you curious why I was with the girl? Before he could finish, Yoon quickly covered his mouth with her hands. I'm not curious about your private life at all. Cheon looked surprised. He gently removed her hands and held them close to his chest, drawing her slightly closer. You seem familiar, he said. Yoon froze. Their faces were dangerously close. I'm meeting you for the first time, she said, awkwardly. They separated just as a loud crash came from behind. It was Haewon. He had broken a pot. Sorry. Did I startle you? He asked, chuckling. Yoon rushed over immediately. Are you okay? She asked, concerned. Cheon watched, confused, as Haewon's expression suddenly darkened. Seeing Haewon's face, Cheon muttered to himself, he's actually handsome. Haewon glared at Cheon coldly. Cheon blinked in surprise. What was that look? Did he just glare at me? He could feel the tension between the two from afar and couldn't help but smirk. During lunch, Cheon suddenly grabbed Yoon by the neck. Yoon freaked out, shouting at him. What are you doing? Cheon made a pitiful face. I'm just trying to be friendly. It's my first day. Park Min and Luna immediately swarmed him, all smiles and excitement. They had seen another handsome guy, and of course, they couldn't resist. Join us for lunch, they said, directing Yoon to sit with them. Yoon tried to refuse, but the two girls glared at her so seriously it was impossible to say no. I guess I have no choice, she thought, obviously annoyed. Cheon joined them, and they all sat together. Park Min and Luna bombarded him with questions, asking if he was a model or signed with an agency. It was impossible to eat in peace. Yoon glared at him from across the table. He flirts like he breathes, she thought. She didn't care about anything else. All she wanted was to enjoy her kimchi stew in peace. Just then, someone called her name. She looked up and saw Haewon, tray in hand. Can I sit next to you? He asked. I sense drama and competition between these two and Haewon. He looks ready to fight for his girl. Cheon is being unnecessarily too close to her. Everyone in the cafeteria watched them from afar. Yoon Seum was literally eating in the middle of the hottest boys in school. She wondered how she ended up like this. How did she get coiled up with the school's most handsome boy and the legendary transfer student? She just wanted to live quietly, but she was clearly far from that with these boys around her like this. Seum didn't care. She shoved her spoon into her meal and began eating. Haewon picked out a stir-fried eggplant, calling out to Seum and asking if she liked it because he didn't. She smiled and said she liked it so much, and he gave it to her. He also asked if she wanted his yogurt. Seum asked why he wasn't eating, but he smiled again and said he was lactose intolerant. He gave it to her too, and the others watched in shock as he even took something off her mouth. Seum looked at the eggplant and smiled, thinking to herself that it was so freaking good. Cheon leaned closer and said he liked eggplants too. She glared at him, thinking, and so what? Before she knew it, he held her hand and shoved her spoonful of eggplant into his mouth. Seum didn't know how to react, but from her expression, anyone could tell she was ready to punch this boy. Cheon chewed it childishly, saying it was yummy. Seum felt like she was burning with rage, and Haewon called out to him, asking if his name was Seon. Cheon was surprised when Haewon told him to tone it down because Seum didn't look comfortable. I'm just joking. Is it uncomfortable? Are you two dating? He asked, and Seum choked on her food. She yelled at him, asking what he was talking about. She told him clearly that they were not dating. Cheon smiled, and the other two friends chuckled, pointing out how Seum had freaked out and was all red now. Seum warned them not to dare make a shipping post about them. I'm just saying. Seum cut him off immediately, telling him to stop already. Meanwhile, Haewon, on the other hand, was barely holding in his anger. Like, bro, chill. Why are you so angry? He's making it too obvious. Back in the class, Seum laid on her desk tiredly, and immediately someone dropped a soda on the desk. It was Cheon. She glanced at him, and he smiled, telling her to drink it because he had just gotten it from the store. He left right away to continue what he was doing, and Seum stared at the drink in confusion. Looking at it, she thought to herself that maybe he was not totally a bad guy. Seum took back her words about calling him a complete jerk as they both served punishment. You must be wondering why they ended up like this, right? 30 minutes earlier, Seum and her friends were heading to class, talking about what to do during midterm. They were surprised when they looked in the other direction and saw Cheon being scolded by the dean. They wondered why and concluded that he must have gotten caught for not wearing his tie. Cheon glanced over and noticed them, but Seum turned around immediately because she knew she was not wearing her tie too, so she had to run. She told her friends they should go back to the store, but they asked why since they had just come from there. She told them she was suddenly hungry. Cheon sneaked up on her from behind, and she froze in confusion. He called her partner with a smile. This time, that name was really true, because they were partners in not wearing a tie. Cheon crossed his shoulder over hers and asked if she would like to join him. Before she could react, he revealed that she was not wearing a tie and quickly reported to the dean. She was so pissed that this foolish boy could not just let it slide. That's the difference between him and Haewon. While kneeling down with her hands up, Cheon could tell how mad she was. He sadly asked if she was really angry at him for snitching. He apologized, saying it was too boring, so he needed a partner. He slowly leaned on her, saying his arms already hurt because he was too delicate. Meanwhile, Siam angrily thought to herself that if only they were in a novel, she would have broken his neck into complete pieces for putting her in this situation. Just then, Cheon remembered something and asked Siam why she did not spread the rumor about him rubbing lips with a girl on the first day. She asked why she would do that, and he replied that people would find it fun. Siam sighed and said she did not find gossiping about other people's business fun, and besides, she did not know anything about him, so it would be weird to talk about someone she barely even knew. Cheon smiled, mumbling to himself that she was such an interesting person. "Hey you," I said, "hold your arm straighter," the teacher shouted, and they both straightened up. With folded arms, he called them troublemakers. Just then, Haewon walked in. He greeted the teacher politely, and the two noticed him, wondering what he was doing there. The teacher asked why he was there, and he calmly said that he had borrowed Siam's necktie yesterday and did not return it. He offered to serve the punishment instead of her. The teacher scolded him, asking why he would borrow her tie when he was so well behaved, but he could not scold him any longer, and said it was fine. Cheon was shocked when Haewon asked if he could go back to class with Siam. Haewon reached out his hand to her, smiling and saying they should go. She jumped up immediately, asking if it was really alright. Cheon couldn't believe that actually worked when they all knew it was obviously a lie. He decided to slip away while the teacher was distracted, but Haewon called out to the teacher, saying they would take their leave. Immediately, the teacher noticed Cheon trying to escape and scolded him to sit back down. He sighed, thinking to himself that this was the worst. He glanced at Siam and Haewon as they were leaving and was shocked to see Haewon's expression. He was literally mocking him with that smile. At this point, I can only say it's 1-0 now. Cheon scoffed, thinking to himself, so that's how he wants to play it, huh? School closed that day, and Haewon stood on the rooftop, looking down at Cheon and his friends as they headed home, talking about what to do. Haewon sadly thought to himself that he wanted things to be different this time, and he seriously didn't want to make her cry again, but there was no progress. No matter how much he tried to decorate it or hide it, it still kept leaking out. Did y'all hear that? So Haewon is indeed Killian. Holy Mary. This is so messed up. All this time, we haven't had Haewon's side view, and this is it? He wondered how he could possibly stay calm leaving her behind. Just then, a clay pot fell right in front of Cheon and would have hit him if he had taken one more step forward. They all panicked and asked where it fell from, only to hear someone call his name. Cheon looked up and coldly mumbled to himself, so it's him. Midterms were over, and when Siam saw her test results, she knew instantly that she was screwed. Thinking about it, she remembered that her grades were not even good back in the academy either. She had only carried on with practical skills. Remembering that now, she concluded that she should have switched courses. Glancing at Haewon, she thought to herself that thankfully he helped her with math tutoring, which had actually helped her a lot. Siam smiled, thinking that since he helped her, she should at least ask him out for taekbokki later. When she asked after school, Haewon rejected her offer immediately, apologizing that he couldn't make it today. She was quite surprised and said it couldn't be helped then. Her hands began to sweat as she realized she had not even considered rejection. Haewon told her he really wanted to go with her, but today he needed to go home early. He turned away and said he would text her. She waved as he left, thinking he looked so down, and she felt a little disappointed because she had really found a good spot. Hearing her own thoughts, she panicked. She couldn't believe she had just thought of Haewon's rejection as a disappointment. She mumbled to herself as she headed home that she was so scared of him the other day, but she was suddenly interrupted by Cheon, who was hiding in a corner. "It seems you got used to him," he said, following her, but she acted like he wasn't even there. Cheon suggested they hang out together instead, but she didn't reply. She only mumbled that she would be going to the arcade with Minji and Darung. Cheon couldn't believe she just ignored him. He even wondered if he was a ghost or something. "Partner, just wait. You're going to end up hanging out with me," he shouted from behind, and she thought to herself in his dreams. Just like Cheon said, he ended up hanging out with them because he came along with Minji and Darung. He called her partner as usual and pointed at the game, asking her to have a quick match with him. She refused, asking why she would play with him in the first place. He childishly asked if she was scared of losing. Of course, Yoon Siam was very competitive, so she agreed immediately. I feel sorry for him. She would definitely beat him. She stepped up to the game and said that if she won, he had to stop calling her partner. Cheon chuckled and said that if he won, then she would call him partner too. In his dream. I doubt she would ever call him that. Before they started, he picked up a ball, mocking her and saying he would go easy on her. To his surprise, Siam's first throw was a blast. You're losing, she said, asking if he played basketball with his legs. Cheon was embarrassed and instantly grew anxious. He thought he could do better than her, but no matter how much he tried, her throws were always different and accurate. The game ended with Yoon Siam scoring 151 goals, while Cheon scored 119. Cheon couldn't believe it. He curiously asked if she was in a basketball club, because how could anyone pull that off without being in one? He wasn't ready to accept defeat, so he suggested another game. They started again, and just like that, Siam shut down every challenge like a pro. While he watched in shock, she knew deep down that shooting here was easier than archery. They decided to play another game, the motorcycle one, and she was much faster than him. He thought to himself that this was easier than horse riding. Then they played a video game, and to Cheon's surprise, he lost again. He literally felt like crying. She told him that was more than enough, and that now he should quit calling her partner. Cheon grabbed her hand, saying not yet. She glanced at him, and he let go, saying he didn't want to pull this out because the final battle was yet to be completed. He pointed at the pump dancing game ahead, saying it would conclude the battle. Back when she was reincarnated into the romance fantasy novel, she could easily hunt monsters all by herself, but there was one thing she couldn't do, and that was social dancing. Everyone would stare at her in embarrassment when she danced because she looked foolish. Not only did she look foolish, she also tripped and fell while dancing all by herself. She had completely forgotten about this weakness, the fact that she had 2 left legs. Just like in the past, she was horrible at the pump game. She tripped and fell, leaving Cheon shocked. He called out to her, saying that there was something she was actually bad at too. It was so bad that he couldn't believe it. He suggested they hold hands, but she refused, telling him to go on and try it. A few moments later, people gathered in amazement, watching him dance so well. He did different styles that made people cheer, and with his perfect physique, no one wanted to walk away. Siam watched him, mumbling to herself that he was good at something after all. For him to suggest this as his last game, it's quite obvious he was sure he could do better. Cheon looked back, sweating, which made him look extremely hot. He glanced at her and winked with a smile, which made all the ladies blush except Siam. She mumbled to herself that he was always showing off. There is literally nothing Cheon could do to make her see him as attractive or like him. He finished dancing and walked up to her, asking how the dance was. "Did I do well?" he asked, lifting his shirt to wipe his sweat. He pleaded cutely for her to at least say he did well because he was really desperate to win at least one thing. Cheon was happy when she finally said he did well. Just then, some girls approached them and began praising him for being so good at pump. They asked which school he attended and even asked for his number. Siam stood there speechless because she expected this. The girls asked him to play hockey with them over there, and Siam wondered how long he was going to keep giving them attention and flirting. The girls whispered to themselves, asking who the girl next to him was, or if she was his girlfriend. The other scoffed, saying there was no way she was his girlfriend because she looked too ordinary. Siam could literally hear their whispering and thought to herself that if she was going to play any game with them, it would be the punch game, because they really deserved to be punched. Cheon looked at her sadly, but she was already looking the other way, about to leave. Cheon scratched his head, humming, then rejected the girl's offer. He held Siam by the shoulders and clearly told the girls that he was with someone else. He waved at them to leave, saying maybe some other time, and they walked away in embarrassment, concluding that they were a couple after all. Cheon turned to Siam, smiling, and asked if she wanted to play 2-player mode with him because he would teach her. She was surprised to hear him call her by her name instead of partner. She didn't even know he knew her name. She smacked his hands, saying she would appreciate it, but he better back off. He looked sad, like a baby about to cry. Why is she so hard on him, you must be wondering. Well, after going through misery in that novel, her strictness is understood, right? He began teaching her the pump game and set it on beginner, telling her to take it slowly 1 step at a time. She tried it, thinking firmly that she wanted to be good at something different in this life. Cheon was surprised by how focused she was. He smiled, mumbling to himself that she was kind of cute. The music started and she began. Cheon told her not to step too fast, but only tap with the tip of her foot. She followed every step and instruction and was amazed at how well she was doing. She smiled, thinking it was actually pretty fun. Her expression changed when she heard the sound of her foot stepping on his. Cheon groaned, holding his foot, and she panicked, apologizing and asking if he was okay. She squatted and leaned closer, worried, asking if it hurt a lot. She was confused when she heard him laughing. Cheon burst out laughing, asking how she even crossed into his panel. She exhaled in relief, saying he scared her, and he couldn't stop laughing at how funny it was. She asked if his foot was really okay, and he replied that if she was that worried, she should blow on it for him. She frowned and wondered where it all went wrong, because she was literally following her lane. Cheon got lost in her confused face and smiled. He stood up and told her he lost to her and would even accept it if she told him to call her brother. Watching him praise her and say she was cool, he reached out his hand to her, saying they should go hang out with Minji and Darong. She stood up on her own, telling him to do whatever he wanted. He asked why she was not holding his hand, and she told him she wouldn't. They're literally like cat and rat. I doubt she would easily accept Cheon as her friend. While hanging out with Minji and Darong, she couldn't help thinking that it was actually fun, and it had been so long since she had just hung out normally. Watching them, she thought about how her past life was full of bleak and painful stories. They all went for karaoke and Cheon offered to perform first for them like a celebrity. They were so excited to hear him because they literally considered him an idol, but the strange thing was that he picked a kid's song. They were all shocked when he began singing. It was a complete blast, and they felt like their ears were going to bleed. Siam wondered if he was deaf or something, that he couldn't hear how horrible his voice was. At this point, I must really say that Cheon is good for nothing. His face and physique are really saving him from a lot. When he finished, he handed the mic to Siam, but she panicked and refused, saying she couldn't do it. He told her that singing was all about confidence. Bro, seriously? Holding the mic, Siam was so nervous she felt pissed at herself. Cheon told her not to worry and said he would back her up. She finally began singing her uncle's favorite song, and Cheon cheered her, saying she had a nice voice after all. She thought to herself that he was not a bad kid after all. Minji and Darung praised her, saying she was better than a celebrity. That celebrity they're talking about must be Cheon. She's really better than him. The joy she felt after a long time was so overwhelming that she didn't even notice her phone ringing where she left it at the corner. Lee Haewon was calling her. He was in his room, dialing her number, but it kept saying not reachable. He clenched the phone in his hand while sitting on the floor, his shirt drenched in blood. What happened? What has he done now, and why is he calling her? This guy is really after her life. Earlier, at Lee Haewon's house, his father was playing golf and annoyingly scolded him for choosing to go to that school and for his ranks getting worse with time. So this is why he went home sad? His grades are bad? Lee Haewon, his father called out when he noticed he wasn't listening. His father got angry, clenched the golf iron, and approached him. Haewon glared at him. His father raised the club and hit him in the face, yelling that he had told him many times not to look at him with those eyes. Haewon apologized coldly, then suddenly smiled, saying that was what he learned from watching him. His father smiled back before attacking him again, calling him an unlucky brat. Do you even know how disgusting your eyes are? He yelled. Haewon asked what he expected him to do since he didn't like them, pluck them out? His expression was so disrespectful that it kept triggering his father, and his father asked if they should give that a try. He took a heavy beating before heading back to his room. Staring at himself in the bathroom mirror, he thought that it didn't show much, which was quite disappointing. This guy is really a psychopath. Why do I feel like he triggered his dad on purpose? Looking at the mirror, he stood quietly and suddenly thought to himself that he got lucky in this life. It was easier to go far than any other time. He pulled off his shirt, and his whole body was filled with bruises. He took a shower, thinking that this was nothing, and that what had always been so difficult for him was her, and only her. This is so messed up. His obsession is just the same as in the novel. I can't believe he actually jumped out of the novel. It's crazy, right? Yoon was right. If she could enter a novel, that means fantasy novel characters can also enter the real world. After bathing, he dried his hair and picked up his phone. With a cold expression, he texted a number, telling them to get that thing he asked for ready. The next day at school, Yoon sat all by herself, thinking about how strange it was that Lee Haewon had not come. It wasn't like he was ever late before. She also wondered why he called last night. Just then, Minji touched her bag and exclaimed. She raised it, asking if the toy was the one they got yesterday. Yesterday at the arcade, they saw a toy machine, and Yoon Seum couldn't help thinking that the tiger looked so much like Haewon. She tried to grab it to give it to him when she saw him, but ended up getting a squirrel instead. Looking at it, her mood dropped, and she knew she couldn't give it to him as a gift. Cheon showed up at that moment and asked what she grabbed. He made fun of her when he saw it, saying she literally grabbed an alien. She glared at him, mumbling that it was technically a squirrel. She looked at it again, thinking it looked so stupid. What a shame. I should have done better, she lamented. Cheon looked at her for a moment, then snatched it from her and instantly gave her his own. She scoffed, saying he had weird taste, and he chuckled, saying it was totally his type and that it reminded him of someone. Don't tell me the someone he's talking about is our dear Yoon Seum? Cheon cutely told her that she had to hang the one he gave her on her bag and think of him every time she saw it. She frowned, thinking that apart from him being too slim, he was actually a good guy. Did she just praise him? That's rare, my girl. Cheon suddenly showed up again and asked if she liked it. She freaked out, telling him to make some noise when he appeared instead of showing up out of nowhere every time. Cheon smiled and showed her his bag, which had her squirrel hanger on it. Why are you carrying that stupid thing around? She asked weirdly. He smiled and replied that it was because she gave it to him. No, she didn't. You snatched it yourself. Cheon told them how fun yesterday was and suggested they hang out like that often. He also invited them to play some board games, and the girls agreed immediately. But Seum suddenly suggested that they ask Haewon to come this time. Later during sports, Seum sat alone, thinking that Haewon really did not come to school today, and the teacher said he caught a cold. She sighed, wondering why it was even bothering her so much. She regretted not seeing and answering his call yesterday, and now she couldn't reach him. Just then, her phone beeped. When she checked, it was a reply from Haewon, saying he was better now. She apologized for not answering his call yesterday and explained that she was busy with her friends at the arcade. He asked if she was with Minji and Darong, and she replied yes, adding that Cheon was there too. She thought to herself that she was glad he was better. 3 minutes later, he still hadn't replied after she mentioned Cheon. Someone got jealous. 5 minutes later, Siam was still waiting for a reply, but there was none. She couldn't believe he just left her on read. She wondered if something happened. She put her phone away, concluding that he must have fallen asleep or gone to do something, and tried not to overthink it. While going home, there was still no reply. She wondered if she should ask her uncle to make kimchi stew for her. When she reached her door, she saw someone dressed in black sitting right in front. She wondered who it was, and her eyes widened in shock when she noticed it was Lee Haewon. She asked what he was doing there. "Don't tell me you've been waiting?" "Since when exactly?" she asked, and he slowly raised his head. She rushed over, saying he should have called. She squatted beside him, reached out her hand, and asked why he would just come and wait like this. What if she came home late? She froze when she noticed the bruises on his body. She asked what was wrong with his face. Haewon called her name, and she froze. "Hang out with me too," he said, looking at her cutely. "He's so cute. Why does he have to be so toxic?" They arrived at the escape room, and Siam asked if he really wanted to try this. He chuckled behind his face mask and said yes. He told her it sounded fun, and that he had never been to an escape room before. Looking at him, Yoon Siam could tell something was wrong, but whenever she asked, he brushed it off. She decided to go along with his plan for now. Before this, when he asked her to hang out, she asked what he wanted to do. He told her he wanted something normal, just like what she did with her friends, maybe even going to the arcade with him too. She panicked, asking if he wanted to go looking like that. His face was a total mess. She suggested treating his wounds first, but he sadly told her he only wanted to hang out with her right now. Our girl froze, wondering how he could say that while looking at her like that. Back at the entrance, the receptionist smiled happily, thanking them for waiting and telling them that a room just opened up and it was the horror theme. Horror? Siam asked, already scared because the poster looked so real. Of all things to do, why hang out in a horror escape room? This would not be funny. They went in, and an announcement played, saying the building was a ward built in 1968. Siam was amazed when she saw Haewon dressed in the outfit. She thought they were surprisingly committed to the concept, and it suited him well. The announcement came again, asking her to help the patient whose limbs were bound. To escape, they had to solve the mystery of the closed ward. Seeing how Haewon was tied up, she thought it was strange. "I guess the real game starts once we get these clothes off." She slid her hand into the clothes, and her eyes widened when she realized something. With a serious face, she asked if she should just break it off. "Then what fun is it, girl?" Haewon chuckled, saying he didn't think they should do that because the staff member who tied him up said there was a hidden key somewhere in there, so she should go look for it. She agreed, but deep down, she knew she was scared to move around there alone. She tried to assure herself, thinking back to how she was not afraid of political battles, assassins, or monsters in the novel. But one thing was sure, she was still scared of ghosts. She wondered if it was because she couldn't beat ghosts. Sadly, she searched for the key. Haewon called out, asking if she was okay and not scared. She told him she was fine and kept looking for clues. She thought that since it was the first stage, it should be easy to find the key. While searching, she suddenly froze, and before she knew it, she fell backward in fear. Haewon rushed over, asking if she was okay. At that moment, her spirit almost left her body. Come to think of it, how did he get out? She trembled, saying she felt something squishy. He told her it was okay, that it was just a prop. She felt embarrassed when she realized she had panicked over nothing. Then she suddenly turned to Haewon, confused. "How did you get out?" she asked. He smiled and said he heard her scream, gave a hard yank, and the clothes snapped off. She was surprised, thinking that was strange, because when she checked earlier, it was too sturdy. She shook it off, telling herself that was not the problem now. What worried her more was how this place looked far more real and scary than she expected. Haewon called out to her softly and said he wanted to hold her hand. He smiled and said he wanted to hold it the same way she held his when he was shaking. She was shocked, and the thought of holding hands again felt even more horrifying, so she said no. "I'll pass. I'm not even scared," she said. But a few minutes later, she jumped straight into Haewon's arms, screaming that something just moved. Poor Siam, her pride got wounded. She held onto his arms tightly, almost crying, and asked if he thought something was really about to come out. He looked around and told her it was nothing. He suggested they check a card over there to see if there were clues. He said the bookshelf looked like the one from earlier, but she was more worried about the place. She kept looking around, afraid something would pop out, and sadly thought, when will this end already? Just then, a terrifying ghost appeared in front of her. She screamed with her mouth wide open like someone who had truly seen a real ghost. Haewon called out to her in worry, and before he could react, she jumped toward him, and they both fell onto the bed. She landed on top of him, and they stared into each other's eyes. When she realized what was happening, she apologized quickly and said they should just give up on the quest. Another sound came, and she hugged him again in fear, clenching his shirt. Haewon was too shocked to react. He told her that if she was too scared, he would cover her. He rubbed her head, saying he could also cover her eyes if she wanted. He held her tight against his chest and said he was scared too. Yoon felt how fast his heart was beating and couldn't believe he had been holding and how scared he was. I doubt his heart is beating because he's scared. I think it's because she's so close to him, don't you think? She told him he must have been terrified all this while, then asked how long they were going to sit on each other like this. He held her tighter and said, "Until I calm down." Did he just say that? Calm down my foot. Bro, you don't look terrified. I wish we could see the staff watching this on camera. Finally, they got out of the escape room and even took pictures. Haewon kept staring at the photo as they headed home. Siam asked if his first escape room was fun. He chuckled, saying it was fascinating, and thanked her for hanging out with him. She said it was fine because she had fun too, after a while. Fun? I doubt it. That was far from fun. She looked away, smiling, thinking that Haewon seemed completely unbothered. Maybe she was the only one feeling strange. She remembered how close they were in there and thought that it was the first time she had been that close to a guy in this life. Looking at Haewon staring at the picture, she wondered what was going on in his head, because sometimes she didn't understand him. He would close the distance, then act unbothered again. She suddenly stopped and called out to him. He looked up, and she told him to wait there for a moment. He asked where she was going, but before he knew it, she was gone. He stood there confused, and when she came back, the sun was already down. She returned with a first aid kit. She treated his wounds, and he groaned. She asked if it hurt, and he said a little. When she tried to clean it again, he grabbed her hand and looked up at her, asking her to be gentle. Look at him. Isn't he so cute? Stop doing this to our girl. She was flustered, thinking he was crossing the line again and hiding what really mattered. She dropped the cotton pad and told him to roll up his shirt. He was confused, but she did it anyway. She froze when she saw all the bruises on his body. From the way they looked, she knew this was not from delinquents. There was no way someone who didn't even come to school would get beaten like that. She stepped back to the corner. He asked how she knew, and she asked how she wouldn't. She sprayed disinfectant on the bruises and asked why he didn't tell her earlier. If she had known, she would have been more careful and wouldn't have jumped on him like that, because it must have hurt. He smiled and said he didn't see the need to tell her, because it would only make her worry, and she couldn't solve it right away. Siam was surprised. She told him sadly that he always puts up walls. At first, she thought he was kind to everyone and had many friends, but now it was clear that he was hard to get close to. Don't hide so much. Don't try to solve everything alone either, she said, adding that she might be overthinking, but it was because she was worried. Haewon was shocked when she told him he could rely on her a little. Watching her smile, he looked down and couldn't stop himself from smiling too, telling her that she was different. She sat closer and told him that sometimes he felt like a door she had to open. No, not even a door, but a huge gate. She asked why he kept getting beaten up and firmly said that he was lacking technique, which was something she could teach him. She even showed him how to handle anyone who came at him and told him that when the opponent was too strong, he should run away no matter what. Haewon, standing in a corner, mumbled to himself about how cute her little demonstration was. She asked why he was laughing, and he quickly composed himself, asking her to keep teaching him. She told him to stop making that face. He asked what face she was talking about. That one right there, she said, the face that makes me want to give you everything. He froze and asked, you want to give me everything? Yoon got home, took her bath, and sat eating apples when a text from Haewon came in, asking if she got home safely. He asked what she was doing and said he was searching for escape room themes. He told her they should go again next time, but not horror. She smiled, thinking he was really serious, and agreed that today was actually fun. She kept laughing while chatting with him and mumbled that she really needed to take him to the arcade someday. Turning to her bag, she said she would definitely win a doll that looked like Haewon next time. Then her eyes widened. The doll Cheon gave her, which was hanging on her bag, was gone. She wondered if she dropped it somewhere and thought it was strange. Back at Haewon's mansion, in his room, he was holding the doll. Suddenly, he threw it to the floor and stepped on it. His face turned bitter and cold. This is strange. Does he know it was given to her by Cheon? This male lead is too creepy. Haewon, who are you really? I feel like he knows way too much. Earlier, while staring at the doll, he had thought he wanted her to pity him. He just wanted her to look at him one more time, and he never meant to get this far. He also realized this world was different from back then. You've become stronger, Yoon, he said with a smile before crushing the doll under his foot. He told himself he was trying to suppress it, but the more he did, the more it overflowed, bringing back that same strange feeling. A playful thrill lingered because he knew the rush of possessing, and he had to hold it back. He decided that this time, he would surely control it. Back then, in the novel, Killian and Ines used to train in the yard, fighting with swords. Ines was always fierce and often kicked his sword away, placing her blade on his neck. "I lost again this time," he said from the ground. She scoffed, saying he went easy on her. He told her he didn't. Her eyes widened when she noticed a bruise on his body. She leaned closer, asking why it was like that and when he got hurt. He looked away, saying it was nothing. She grabbed his collar and shouted that it was clearly a big deal because it was so deep. She told him to take off his shirt, and his face turned red as he asked why. She yelled again, and he yelled back for her to get away. She refused, trying to force him, but he grabbed her hand, flipped her to the ground with one move, and pinned her there, telling her to stop. They stared at each other. He groaned that he had told her to stop, but she was too stubborn. "Look at this," she said softly. "You can overpower me with one hand now. You've been stronger than me for a long time." He froze, realizing what he had done. She sighed, thinking she had always protected him because he was weak. Her whole childhood was filled with him. At first, she cared for him, but as time passed, she found herself leaning on him instead. Killian was her only friend, family, and guardian. She always thought she knew him, yet sometimes she felt she didn't. Siam insisted again, asking how he got those bruises and if someone was bullying him. He said it was just from training. She reminded him that he was the strongest in the Empire and no one could bully him.